So I get a lot of questions through the website, through my YouTube channel, or even just via email. Just various questions about sometimes random bike fitting topics. And so I try to answer all those, and I appreciate those coming in because those are where I get many of my ideas for videos and articles, etc. What I'd like to do today is just answer some of those questions. So this is just a sampling of a few of the ones I've gotten, some of the more common ones especially. So one question I get a lot has to do with pedals. Many people start off on their road bikes even with an SPD style pedal, the 2-bolt kind of mountain bike standard from Shimano. And often they wonder, I get the question about, well, people often make a statement saying, well, I need to switch to road pedals and to a look style or speed play or the Shimano's SPDR or Time or something. And I often ask them, well, why? What's the motivation? And for some of them, and many people, they'll say, well, I want to make sure I get all the benefit that the road pedals provide, and they must be more efficient than, say, the mountain bike pedals. And in truth, there's a couple of things. One is, yes, some of the mountain bike shoes are heavier, and so that's a factor that can factor in, but a reasonably small one to many people. And I've not seen any research really that shows that road pedals themselves are by some nature significantly more efficient, especially for the recreational to say like a touring rider or someone that is going to maybe do a Gran Fondo or something like that. And furthermore, many of the mountain bike shoes these days are not like the ones of old where they're very soft and flexible. Most of the mountain biking shoes these days that would be used with these SPD pedals are very stiff, and so I think for most people are going to provide just as much transfer of power to the pedal as, say, a set of looks or speed plays or something like that. If anybody has seen any research, anything that points to a true difference in, say, efficiency or transmission of power or something like that, I have not run into that, but if anybody has, please put it in the comments below. So another question I've gotten a few times has been about bunions. And bunions are actually fairly common, and they do present some pretty significant challenges with cycling, primarily because cycling shoes tend to be fairly low volume, meaning there's not a lot of space in there most of the time. And what the bunion does is it just makes the forefoot, essentially the footprint of it, larger. So let me show you what a bunion is. So we have, okay, so this is a normal healthy foot. This is actually a right foot, and we have the calcaneus, the heel is back here, and these are what are called the metatarsals with the numbers. This is 1st through the 5th. So this is the big toe. And the bunion has to do with this side of the 1st metatarsal and the proximal phalanx. What ends up happening is we have ligaments on the side here that connect the two. And when a couple of things happen, when we have shoes that have a very narrow toe box to them, like dress shoes especially, but also cycling shoes, it can put a force on the toe here, and then that puts some stress on this ligament over here on the side. The end result of that over time is it will essentially stretch that ligament out. And I think it has to do with that, but then there's also, I believe that there's a genetic predisposition, a genetic component to this where you might be predisposed to having this happen. And then the result is this, where then this 1st metatarsal begins to deviate out, and so the big toe actually deviates in. And there's other causes that have to do with, say, the midfoot joints here, etc. But the main focus, our main focus is on this 1st ray here, this 1st metatarsal, and so that's where you get the bulge. People often think that there's this huge growth on there, and it's not necessarily the case. It can just be the angle that these are taking. So what to do about it? I would focus on a couple of things. One is trying to find a shoe that has as wide a toe box as we can manage. Is a good idea. There's a couple of companies, actually Bont is one of them. This is not sponsored by them in any way. Lake Cycling also does a really good job of having wider, actual increased widths. I've heard CD does have a few wider width. They're a little harder to come by, I believe, but aside from that, also making sure that where that bunion is going to contact the shoe, there's some natural material, some actual leather that can be modified or molded or stretched a little bit, and sometimes that can at least help to ease some of the pressure. This shoe has sort of a, and if I fold that over, you can kind of see that. I'll get that on the close-up here of the camera. There's a hard rim of the shoe, and it doesn't come up very high, but if that were to come up any higher, it could kind of provide a barrier that then that would butt up against that, that would butt up against that bunion, and that's part of the actual last of the shoe, not the upper. The upper is just stretched across it. So yeah, large shoe, natural material here that allows it to stretch. Some orthotics can help, but it sometimes can be hit or miss. Because again, orthotics that are going to support the forefoot are going to take up a lot of space in the shoe, and so you're just going to, a lot of times in cycling shoes, even in the best of circumstances, we don't have a ton of space. And so I think sometimes just managing it these other ways can be about as good as it gets. And that, talking about that kind of brings me to the next topic. I get asked a lot about over-the-counter inserts, orthotics, insoles, that sort of thing. I'm going to have more on this in a little while, and I don't mean to kick the can down the road, but I've actually gotten enough questions about them, and it's something that I need to revisit a little bit on my own as well. And so I've actually got some calls out to a few companies, a few manufacturers, and I've had some commitments from actually a number of them. They're going to send me some cycling insole samples, some ones I can test out. And then that way I can kind of show you what the pros and cons of these different ones are, what the costs are, et cetera, and maybe be able to, in a better way, point people in the right direction for different insoles and different inserts. Okay, next question is, say, if I send you some video, can you help me with my bike fit? And the answer to this is probably not. I might be able to help you with a small aspect of it, but it's not terribly successful doing a remote bike fit like that. Primarily because the big thing is there's no context. I don't know much about you. I don't know how you move. I don't know what your restrictions are like off the bike. And that plays such a huge role that, sure, I could take some measurements off of the video. That's easy enough to do. But as far as making good decisions with that data, there's not a whole lot of context in order to do that. In that same vein, I get asked about whether I'm concerned about giving away free information. I think the intimation is that this is something I've learned, and so it's kind of proprietary to my job, I guess, or what I do every day. I've actually talked to a number of people that have expressed this to me, that they don't want to share things online, and that's fine, but because they're concerned about, one, giving the information away for free, and then maybe some competitor might pick it up and take it and use it. I'm not really worried about that, to be perfectly honest. I think what happens is people that think like that believe that they kind of have a handle on pretty much everything that has to do with their area of specialty. One thing I can say for sure, without a doubt, after doing this for about 2 decades now, is that the more you learn doing anything, the more you realize you don't know. And that's the great thing to me. I love the fact that every time I go into a bike fit, I'm learning something new. There's some little nuance that I'm picking up that I didn't have before, and it's just another tiny little piece to a puzzle. And you never get to finish the puzzle. That's the key. I don't think if I did 1,000 videos on YouTube explaining different things, I don't think that someone watching those 1,000 videos would be able to do my job the way I do my job. And I just like being able to learn something every single day, and then I get to pass some of that on, and that's great. If that helps somebody figure something out, that's usually the case. It provides one small little nugget that then someone can take, and it helps them solve a problem, which is great. That's the whole point. So I had a really good suggestion the other day. Somebody reached out through YouTube and said that, they said, I'd like to see a video about taking measurements, say from a road bike that you had a fit on and it's been successful, and what can you take from that road bike and apply to a mountain bike? I thought that was a great suggestion, so I'm going to actually, instead of going through and trying to answer it here, I'm going to put together a separate video and do that, because I think that's worthwhile. That'll be an interesting one for many people, and hopefully somebody can get some use out of it. Because there's a few things that we can take from the road bike fit in a very concrete way, and then we have to take some of the information, and obviously it has to be modified since the two bikes are so different. But yeah, so that one will be coming. Just to finish up, I mean, that's a perfect example. I do get my best ideas from you guys, so ping me, hit me up somewhere, and if you've got a question or an idea, you know, there's a pretty decent chance I will. I might even make a video about it, but there's a really good chance that I'll at least try and answer your question as best I can, because I do try and read and get to all those things. I think I covered everything. I think that's it for now. Thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for watching this, and yeah, leave comments below, questions, anything like that, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.